decade of limitations, a contrast to the 60s era of wild abandon. The strength of the environmental movement prompted the US government to order a reduction in leaded fuels. This forced the automakers to lower the engine compression ratios significantly, which reduced power. Keeping the muscle cars fit was becoming extremely difficult. In 1973, Pontiac engineers came up with the Super Duty 455, which was a near racing engine that met all federal emission standards. The automotive press went wild. But Pontiac's new general manager, Martin Caserio, dithered and delayed its introduction until it was toned down. But sales were up again across the board, and Pontiac moved back into fourth place after falling to sixth. Caserio felt the worst was over and predicted new cars like the Grand Am with its energy-absorbing front end would lead to an even better 1974. These squishy nose pieces weren't enough of a cushion for what was around the corner. In October of 1973, just as Pontiac was preparing to unveil the third generation of Firebirds, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, announced an oil embargo. The U.S. economy was in crisis. America quickly ran out of gas. Gas stations were transformed into ghost towns. When little gas was available, lines became a common sight. For the first time since World War II, rationing was back. People began to question seriously the wisdom of owning and driving powerful, gas-hungry cars. Auto sales began to tumble. After the 5-month-long embargo was lifted, the auto industry was still in shock. The price of crude oil had quadrupled, and gasoline prices skyrocketed. U.S. car makers saw their market shrink by over 1 million units, and Pontiac slipped down a notch to 5th place. In 1974, the GTO became a casualty of the energy crisis, and local police agencies banded together to clamp down on woodwarding. It appeared times had changed. But the Firebird defied everybody's expectations. Its sales rose 59%. Some said Firebird fans would buy one even if they had to keep it in the garage and ride a bicycle. Firebird backers inside the corporation felt the same way. GM's design chief, Bill Mitchell, built a Firebird show car that he drove daily. He equipped it with a 12-cylinder Ferrari engine. His cavalier attitude was that he wasn't going to let the oil shortage stop him from enjoying a high-performance automobile. While the United States celebrated its 200th anniversary in 1976, Pontiac was trying to meet ever more stringent emission requirements. It found a lot of supporters. Once again, the Firebird beat the odds in a difficult regulatory climate and earned a 32% sales increase. By 1978, the Firebird was hot, and even more restrictive fuel economy standards, which necessitated smaller engines, couldn't slow their sales. It didn't hurt that the actor Burt Reynolds chose to drive one in a popular feature film, Smokey and the Bandit. While Firebird sales had been on a steady march, 1979 saw them peak at over 211,000 cars. It was a terrific anniversary gift for the 10-year-old Trans Am. People loved the appropriately named Shaker hood scoop and the gutsy-sounding engines. They loved the Firebird's decal, the screaming chicken, and felt that this threatened species of car deserved to be protected and enjoyed. Many 1979 Firebird buyers were too young to have owned a GTO, but they'd wanted to.
Well, the Firebird folks didn't like to hear that, but we laughingly referred to that as kind of a second chance for a GTO.
Pontiac was confident that Firebird sales would continue their upward march in 1980. But soaring interest rates discouraged car buyers. This, along with gasoline price hikes and rising car prices, spelled disaster for the auto industry and for the Firebird. Sales fell 49% to just over 100,000 cars. To revive sales, Pontiac offered a completely restyled Firebird in 1982. It was an aerodynamic car, concealed headlamps, swept-back grille, a sleek hatchback, and rear deck spoiler. The car could be equipped with 3 levels of suspension, and handling was vastly improved. But the car lacked one essential Pontiac or Firebird ingredient: performance. It was said Pontiac had lost its way, got off track, off the wide track. Pontiac recognized the problem and began to look seriously for ways to satisfy enthusiasts while meeting fuel economy and emission requirements. A glimmer of real hope was seen in 1989, when a limited edition turbo-powered Firebird was the Indianapolis 500 pace car. To boost the Firebird's image and celebrate the Trans Am's 20th anniversary, Pontiac obtained 1,500 3.8-liter turbo V6 engines from Buick and put them in the pace cars. Pontiac's engineers refined the turbo, and a 150 miles per hour Firebird was born. It became an immediate classic. But much to the dismay of many fans, Pontiac decided to drop his engine.
And it was a magnificent car. It was an incredibly good car. By far the fastest car you could buy off of the dealership floor in the United States in 1989. But because it was a Buick engine, and even though it had some tuning and some nurturing by Pontiac engineers, it was still, in their minds, a Buick engine, and so they decided not to continue with that effort.
Pontiac had other ideas. They'd begun to test the public's reaction to a completely new Firebird in 1988. They unveiled a striking show car, and like DeLorean's crushed dream, they named it the Banshee. Unlike DeLorean's Banshee, however, this car had corporate support. The public also liked the car, and this helped to forge a new styling direction for the Firebird's next generation. The redesigned grille on the 1991 Firebird showed the Banshee's influence. Pontiac sold 30,000 more Firebirds in 91 than in 1990. But the big change was still ahead. The Firebird's next step was the 1993 model. completely new Banshee-inspired design. Coupled with a new front suspension, optional 6-speed manual transmission, and a 350 cubic inch V8 with decent gas mileage, gave Firebird diehards something to cheer about. It appeared that Pontiac was back on the fast, wide track. And with rack and pinion steering and four-wheel disc brakes, this 152 miles per hour car was now a sophisticated and affordable performer.
You can't help but love pure, exciting performance. Torque, as I guess we call it. There's nothing better than being able to step on it and get the feeling of the incredible thrust that these things can give you. It sure feels good.
Firebird has been making drivers feel good for years, and it looks as though it will keep on giving performance thrills for a long, long time.